In this video today, we're going to quickly talk about how you should approach your first campaign before you even unpause in Crusader Kings 3. This will be aimed at anyone who is coming to the game from Xbox Game Pass or maybe has decided to give the game a try with the most recent Royal Courts DLC that launched a month ago. This will not be the full in-depth guide to every little nuance of the game, but rather how to set up your campaign before you really even get started. If you would like that in-depth guide, you can find that linked in the upper right-hand corner. Also, if you're lost or confused with any mechanic in the game, I have an extensive playlist covering pretty much everything the game has to offer, linked in the description, pinned comment, and at the end of the video. If you end up finding this video helpful, please don't forget to drop a like, comment, or subscribe on the way out. I cover plenty of Crusader Kings 3 content, and I'll be doing a series of live streams aimed at showing people how to play the game as I reboot the Carolingian Empire of Charlemagne. So here is our map in 1066, and I've just pressed play on a new character, and we'll kind of go through that initial stage before we even unpause the game, like I've been saying. And what we're going to take a look at here is, I'll press Control F9 and we can see our character. I am playing as the Duke of Apulia, Robert Guiscard, or Robert Guiscard if you want to kind of look at it that way. And I am not going to be looking at each and every one of these little things because I covered them more in depth in the more in-depth guide. This is just kind of a quick little shock tutorial on how to do this. So depending upon which character you play, you are either going to be single or married. And if you're married, you more than likely have a smattering of children to deal with. And if I just kind of scroll out here, we'll click around, you can see married, married, married. A lot of the larger plots of land have a spouse that you'll already be dealing with. But either way, one of the big things I like to do before you even unpause, and the reason you do this before you unpause, is because if you wait, the AI is going to snatch up all the good Tinder dates. So what you want to do is assign any kind of marriages to your main character or to your children. So you can see Robert has a ton of children. And the cool thing about this is that you have a lot of children to then marry off. So if I click on this character here, I can see she is ready to find a spouse. And this can be done the same way if you are single. You'll see this silhouette. You can click this button and you can find yourself a spouse. And there's some things to kind of take note of. So depending upon the kind of campaign you want to play, the characters you have in mind, how you want the progression to go and everything like that, more often than not, you're probably going to want a male heir, of course, and that male heir is going to take over for you. So if I look at this character, Roger de Hauteville, he will be the character that's going to play for me once my character dies. So I want to have a character here, a spouse here that's going to really propagate strong traits in my line, in my entire kind of lineage for my house. And maybe you decide, you know, I don't want a hunchback heir. I'm gonna take Beaumont here, and I'm really gonna work on making him the actual heir to my family because he already has this physical trait that is congenital. That's a big thing, and this is probably one of the only ones I'll go through as far as traits and everything go, is looking for congenital traits because these are going to pass down from child to child. And if you get these set up early in the very beginning of the game, it makes your mid and late game easier because you basically have super children. So we're going to click Find Spouse. And then we're going to click this little magnifying glass to add a filter in, and we're going to change some things. So for one, he's 11 years old. And the way fertility works is it takes your age, your spouse's age, and it kind of makes an average to basically determine what the overall fertility is to have children. Then there's other things that can affect that, like this one right here, chaste, reduces fertility by 25%, or there's fecund, which increases it, so on and so forth. But what you want to do is you want to make sure your fertility is set to, well, fertile. You want to have age difference. I like to do just 5 because 5 years older is not preferable. You want them younger if you are doing a male marriage. If it's female, it's not as big of a deal because probably you're trying to do it for an alliance, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Now the big thing too is traits. We want inheritable. So this will then only display people that have these congenital traits as a part of their character profile. So then organize this by age. So that way I can just quickly kind of scan through here. Since my character's 11, I want kind of this middle ground here. So Bodil here, she's got comely, but this one's got pretty. So basically you'd want to use this screen to spend a lot of time on all of your characters, either your main character or your children, to set up these marriages. And you want to kind of look at traits like this. You don't want to marry someone that lustful is like one of the most dangerous traits, because basically that person's going to get married. You guys are going to have a kingdom together, and she's going to be just sleeping around, or you will be sleeping around if you've got lustful. So you kind of want to be mindful of those traits when you're doing this marriage process. But it is really helpful to do this because this is going to be crucial. If, like I said, if you wait, the AI is going to snatch up all the good ones. Really, the one that you want to look for, and I'm going to remove it just to see if we can find someone, is genius. You can type this in and look for a specific trait, and unfortunately no one is of age that has got well, no one's period is marryable, or there's no available spouses with genius, which is one of the best ones because you can see it gives all these great perks. You can type intelligent, which is the one right below it. Okay, so I do have some options here, but they're just way older than me. And I do have a number of mods on, so if you look at the map and go, wait, why doesn't mine look like that? It's just because I have these mods. But the other kind of double-edged sword, or the other end of the marriage process, is if you have a daughter. More often than not, you'd want to do any kind of marriage for betrothal, as it were, for your daughter, for alliance power, trying to find someone that is particularly going to add a lot of strength to your overall military capabilities. And here I would remove all these traits, all these filters, to just pretty much sort strictly by alliance power. Oh, hey, you know, now we can marry into the, well, into the Duchy of Normandy, and this is going to add quite a bit of strength to us because this is a very strong nation. That's how I would use my daughter. Basically, the daughters I use to secure very strong alliances, like this one right here. This is going to give me alliance with the King of Denmark. And the big, I think there's one that you can do for the King of France, but it looks not to be available. The big thing too with this is, if you go ahead and do this and she marries into the King of Denmark, any male children that they've got that become dukes or become kings or emperors will contribute to your renown gain here. If you look at this, you hover over that, it says Duke, Duke by marriage. Those little things by marriage will start to increase because your house will start to spread throughout the map. So that is how that becomes very advantageous to you. You use your daughters for alliance power and renown gain. You use your sons for pretty much securing a very strong forward lineage. Now, with our marriages taken care of, we want to deal with this little button right up here, your lifestyle choice. Now, this is going to be dependent upon the character you've chosen to play. So if I press F1, you can take a look that Robert Giscard here, he has a lot of martial skill. So innately, he is probably going to be way better at choosing a martial lifestyle. Pretty much every character you choose, unless you're doing one of the custom built out characters, is going to have perks already invested in one of these 5 lifestyles. And you can see too that because of your martial education, you gain 40% more experience in this lifestyle. So if we select it, you get 3 different perk trees that you can choose from, you can add stuff to, and then you get 3 different focuses. Now these focuses, they will pretty much determine events that will happen to you, certain occurrences, like for example, the chivalry focus. As you go down this chivalry focus and push through whatever perk tree you want, you'll start to get events like getting a special war horse for yourself. So every single one of these is a way to kind of color that lifestyle in a specific focus. Don't worry about which one of these 3 perk trees to go down. The focus has no bearance upon it in the sense that you can choose strategy, which is the strategist, but still go down the gallant tree. There's nothing that limits you. So do as you please. Choose one that fits your character. If you're playing any kind of tribal character, like any of the Norse characters, going with martial to begin with is very strong because you spend a lot of time going to constant war. Stuff like Bellum Justum reduces your casus belli by 50% is really strong too if you're playing a feudal government. But learning is very, very strong, and I think that every character should eventually progress to a really good learning character down the line. So if you have your main character, you start with martial, then maybe you progress to your son or your grandson into learning, because it just gives you so many awesome perks. Now, depending upon what character you play, you might have a Dynasty legacy you can choose from. Dynasty legacies are attached to your renown pool up here, but we'll go ahead and press this and we'll pop this open. Now, these are basically traits that are going to apply to your entire house, to your dynasty. And these you'll get access to these every handful of renown points. You can see up here, we've got 290. It costs 250 to get one of these unlocked. And these will really be determined upon the playthrough you have in mind for yourself. You have a lot of different ones to choose from, but I'd say one of the really good ones that is, I think, an all-comer type trait is Noble Veins here. So chance of inheriting good congenital traits plus 30%, chance of new good congenital traits plus 30%. Remember, those congenital traits are those inheritable ones that we talked about a little bit ago, like intelligent or genius. Other ones can be stuff like Herculean or just robust. These are some of the best, or this is probably one of the best legacy traits to choose. So I would probably go with this one. But let's say you want to play a character that is Norse and is going all over the place and attacking everywhere. You go down the adventure line to go do your Norse adventures. Maybe you want to do a lot of pillaging, you would do that here. So you have a lot of different things you can go down, and I would just spend some time, look at these, see which ones you really like, and just kind of make that your primary focus. Or you might pivot halfway through and go, you know what? My campaign's goals have changed. I'm no longer going to be focusing on my Norse adventures. I really want to focus on building out stuff like my law line or even my bloodline to make it so I have way better congenital traits. So do look through these if you do have this as an option to unlock it in the very beginning of your game. So now, having gone over marriages, lifestyle, and legacies, another important part of really all three of those things are guardians. And especially if you're starting off with children in your game, which you probably will, you'll want to assign them. It's got a little denotion. It tells you up here, assign a guardian. We're going to assign a guardian here for Bowman. And my preference is focusing on all of my male children first because I want them to be the best possible heirs that they can be. The double-edged sword to that, though, is if you are working on 3 male characters and one takes the kingdom, then the other 2 more than likely are going to act against that one. So you do have to kind of be measured in your approach to this, making one better than the other 2. The daughters I don't worry about as much. So when you click that button, this is what you see. I actually find this to be pretty counterintuitive. Press this little guy right there. Now you're choosing a guardian that this character will go to. And this is a lot easier to kind of find everyone because you can see everyone in your top court, which is basically everyone in your realm that you can take advantage of to make them your guardian. Guardian is going to transfer skills and stuff like these attributes over here to your character in some way, shape, or form. You can assign yourself to the guardian, meaning you'll deal with little dilemmas that'll basically dictate one of 3 outcomes that will determine these traits that will then be these personality traits that will then be applied to this character. And Bowman's a pretty cool character from the history. He actually he goes off and joins the First Crusade, so he's a pretty cool character again in history. He already starts though with deceitful, ambitious, and cynical, so he actually already has these traits locked in for himself. So you would assign him maybe yourself because maybe I want this character to be the character that will take on my legacy, and I want to custom pick out what effects or what personality traits he has. I would go ahead and I would do that. He also disinherited, so he won't actually take the throne, but that's part of another video. But you can also have certain characters take over from there. And these characters, you would look at this education trait because this education trait determines how these skills are going to come across. Do I want Bowman to be a particularly good intrigue style character? Well, I would look for any of the trickster style education traits. Or maybe I want him to be a really good military character. Well, I'm going to look for skilled tacticians, any of the tactician traits, because that's going to help him out. Another big portion of this, and this has changed over time since the game has come out, is your character's learning. So having something like high learning and then a good specific education trait helps to make a character become a good specific version of the education trait. Example, Serlo here has 14 learning and tier 3 skilled tactician. He's going to be quite good at teaching young Bowman the art of war. Conversely, going down to the bottom, Roussel, who also has tier 3 skilled tactician, he's not going to be as good as my other bro, Surlo, because he has 1 learning. Those 2 things do factor into it. Also, the last note I want to talk about with Guardian is keep in mind that these personality traits, unless you are the character that is dealing with the guardianship of your children or another NPC's child, they have a likelihood of taking these personality traits on. So if you don't want your character to be deceitful or you don't want lustful to enter the realm, then do not give a guardianship to a character who has a personality trait you don't want your children to have. That's like a life lesson, right? So make sure you're mindful of that. And when it comes to guardians, you can actually be the guardian of, like I said, foreign NPC characters to kind of help increase your overall attitude or opinion towards each other. You can do this too with your own children. You send them off to, say, the Byzantine Empire to go learn from the Byzantine Emperor, and that will increase your relationship with each other. So guardians can be a diplomatic tool just in the same way that any kind of marriage can be. Another window that is now going to be one of the biggest helps in your entire campaign is, if you press F8, the decisions tree. This is going to give you access to a ton of stuff like commissioning artifacts, which is new. Search for physicians, so you have a court physician that is going to help you out with anyone who is wounded or becomes ill, and stuff like hosting feasts, calling hunts, pilgrimages, stuff like that. The 2 big ones here that you want to do at the very beginning of your game: invite knights, because you can see right now I have too few knights. You can invite them to my court. It's going to cost me some prestige, but it is worth it because we're going to, at least 3 knights are going to come to the court that we can then recruit. So we press that button, send the herald. Then we want to search for a physician. Now, if you are a more advanced user, you can custom search for physicians. And I cover that in a lot of my other videos. You'd press C and you would look throughout the realm more or less for a physician, someone with the physician traits. And you would try to marry them into your realm. You would click this and you would say, oh, okay, well, let's go ahead and look at all people within diplomatic range. And you would just try to find someone with this trait. And actually, you probably want to look for unmarried too. And you try to basically marry them into your court by basically doing an arranged marriage and a matrilineal marriage that pulls them into your court if you marry them to another character. So that's how you would kind of do that. But this is the easiest way to do it if you're just starting out. You just press start search and you'll get an option to a number of physicians. You want to have a physician as fast as possible because anything that happens to any of your characters, the physician takes care of it, and they have a chance to become better over time. And you want to focus on anyone with either the physician traits that we took a look at right here, right, like this, or anyone with particularly high learning. Those 2 things tend to lead to either gaining the physician trait or becoming better innate physicians. Moving quickly over to our council, we want to quickly look at all of our council members and make sure that they are in the proper places. You would click this button and you would just appoint a new chancellor. So if I look at the chancellor who's focusing on diplomacy, we'll organize this by diplomacy. You know what, this guy, he looks like he's going to be way better at this position. Just be mindful of this. If you are moving characters around and swapping them to different locations, look to see if they have this symbol. A powerful vassal means that they want to be on the court. You can kind of substitute this by putting them in any of the minor court positions that you have access to here. But for the most part, they want to be on your council. So take that, basically weigh the pros and cons of this. Like if this guy had 2 diplomacy, it would be a no-brainer. He's being swapped out. 11 is not terrible. It's average, as you can see. Walk-in here, it's still just above average into good. So you can see the effects of monthly prestige, general opinion, increased effectiveness, diplomacy schemes. So this character is going to be better at being in that position. Same thing here with our steward. We would look for a character that has higher stewardship skills. Again, more advanced users, you can press C, hunt for specifically high steward characters and try and marry them into your court. But again, if you're just starting out, just look for these ones that are already in your realm and swap them in. Like Count Roger here. I know it's Roger, but that's how you pronounce it. You would just go ahead and put him in there. You press swap. There you go. Now Roger's there and I get way better what's it called? I get a way better marshal. Same thing with our spy master. Again, this guy, Abelard, his intrigue is 9. This guy's intrigue is 11. It's not going to be enough of a jump because this guy is a powerful vassal. So you definitely want to navigate around your council. And anytime you are faced with a certain dilemma or a certain decision, have your wife swap their assist button. So if I say, hey, you know, I'm dealing with a learning-based issue, have her swap to patronage before you make that issue resolution, and she'll give you that bonus before the resolution kicks in, which is very, very nice. But managing your council at the very beginning of the game is crucial so that you set yourself up for success in those first crucial years. With your military, you want to make sure that you're set up with the proper amount of men-at-arms. If you're playing a tribal, like a Norse, for example, faction, you would be using fame, your prestige up here, to purchase your men-at-arms, but anyone that's using feudal is going to be using your gold reserves. But these are pretty crucial to making it so that you don't just have a massive army of levies, you actually have a really good quality soldiers here. Most factions or most nations now start with men-at-arms by default, and some even have really special ones that give you a huge boost in power, stuff like that. You can manage your knights through here as well. You'd want to make sure that anyone with low prowess, like this character down here, I am not going to put you on my knights. Like, you don't really want to put people with really, really low prowess on as a knight, because like this guy, this is a mayor, he's a vassal of mine, he's got 5 prowess. If he goes out there and dies, I then lose that guy. Especially if you look towards the top of this list and I look at people like my brother or my nephew. If your son's old enough, he would be in this list. So make sure you're always looking at the knights. I have a mod called Knight Manager that makes it so that I can completely shut off, like, I don't want my heir on here, I don't want any of my council on here, stuff like that. Those are really, really good mods to have because you can just quickly navigate through all of this. But the biggest thing that the tutorial does not tell you to do is this little button, the rally point button. So if you're playing as a tribal faction, which means you're probably going to want to do a lot of expansions quickly, you press this button and you can then declare anywhere on the map that is your territory where your units will spawn, basically. So I'm going to want, let's say we want to take Salerno here. I'm going to press right here. Press this button, press move rally point, and select that. So again, you click this flag, you click this little move rally point flag, and you click right here. You can make multiples if you so wish. But that little point means that when I press raise all armies, they all raise right there in that location versus wherever the default is. So you don't have to march across your whole territory to start your invasions. You're already good to go. Now, the last thing I quickly want to go over here is just pressing tab on the keyboard. This little guy right here, your current situations, is going to tell you pretty much everything that I've gone through is right here. Hey, you know what? You can hire a court physician. You're not endorsed by your bishop, and that's relevant if you're, say, well, anyone who has a clerical or chaplain character. You have to have above, I believe there you go. If his opinion of you is at or below -10, he might start inferring in your affairs. So you want to have a positive, they want to have a positive opinion of you, or else they will not give you levies or taxes. So you want to make sure your bishop, your chaplain, whatever religion you are, is positive so they actually endorse you. But it shows you where you can declare wars. It shows you any titles you can create, like the Duchy of Calabria here, any alliances we can do. This pretty much is your convenient screen to get all the little things that you maybe just don't see underneath the map going on. Like, hey, you know, I didn't know I could declare war on all these people. Well, the situations tab is going to help you with that. It's pretty much, like I said, going to be your catch-all, and all these alerts are going to pop up if you don't take action on them. So you'll constantly be reminded, especially stuff in decisions, like we talked about before. If you click on any one of these, more often than not, you have this ability to notify when this decision becomes available. Either you have enough money to do it, or it's been 5 years and now you can do it. So if you have specific decisions you want to really focus on, even the major decisions, like stuff like the Holy Orders or strengthening a bloodline, finding a new kingdom, you press this little check mark and it will display for you. So hopefully this gives you a really good idea on how to break into Crusader Kings 3. If you are playing as a Duke, you can go ahead and keep doing as you're doing. But if you're playing as a king or an emperor, you have the ability to take advantage of the new royal court system. There's a whole bunch of new things with the culture system, which we didn't go into in this video, but again, this is just kind of a quick little crash course on how to play the game at the very initial starts. I've got tons of those videos linked at the very end of this video, in the description, and in the pinned comment. And by tons of those, I mean guide videos to help guide you through anything. If you get stuck on something, please by all means go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. This is a dense game and it will frustrate you in the first 5-6 hours, but once you kind of click with a lot of these mechanics, you will just be having a blast because you'll be able to rip through the game at a fast pace. You've got the ability over here to change their speed. Most people play this game on 3 to 5, and when you start off playing at 1, 2, or 3, there's nothing wrong with that. You'll understand the game quickly and you'll find yourself not needing to navigate through so many menus because you'll just get the gist of the game as you kind of just put your paces in and slam your head against it enough, and I promise it clicks. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.